What's up everybody? So in this video we're going to be taking a look at what actually is a compound and a polish, and what does polishing your car actually mean. But first I'll put the kettle on. Hello and welcome to Hotchkiss Performance. Okay, so the idea with this video is to sort of explain what paint correction is and what polishing means, because there seems to be quite a bit of confusion. You know, I'll have customers ask me, oh, do you polish the car when you're doing a valet? And I try to explain, no, we'll give it a wax, but we're not going to be polishing anything. And they can't seem to quite grasp the idea of the difference, just because they're not, you know, they're not really into the industry, so they don't understand. So we'll be trying to, you know, clear that up and explain what we mean, and showing you a few before and afters of polishing a vehicle. This isn't a how-to video as such, this is just more an educational video for those who aren't really sure what compound and polish actually does. The quick explanation is compounds are generally aggressive liquid abrasives that will cut away medium to heavy defects on your clear coat. A polish is generally less aggressive and is used to refine the surface that you've just cut with a compound. The terms compound and polish are used loosely because they are pretty much the same thing. You know, some people even call the less abrasive products compounds. It's just, you know, your personal preference what you want to refer to them as. But to better explain what we mean, we shall cut to the whiteboard. Okay, so over time a car's paintwork will get damaged. That's just inevitable, generally through improper wash techniques and just general wear and tear. We have already done a video on this. I will leave a link in the description below to that, and a card somewhere up on the screen, which better explains paint defects and the types of common ones that you'll generally come across. Some can be seen with the naked eye, you know, if it's a really bad example of a vehicle. Others generally need to be seen under proper lighting. So how does a compound work? Okay, I'll just quickly explain the amazing drawing that you can see here. So this is the clear coat surface. None of this is to scale, this is just my interpretation of trying to explain to you what's what. Under a microscope, a clear coat surface won't look perfectly smooth. It will have peaks and troughs, which need cutting to get pretty much to this bottom stage. So to do this you will need a compound. Compounds are abrasive liquids, so you'll have your polishing pad of choice. That'll be another video going into depth of polishing pads. The abrasives will be suspended in a liquid format so they can be worked on the surface. You know, generally the liquid will contain lubrication properties to help with, you know, moving the abrasive across the surface to effectively cut away these peaks. So as these are sort of hitting, this is going to be difficult because I am right-handed, so we'll see if we are ambidextrous. The abrasives will be working across the tops of these peaks here. Wow, that is difficult using it with your left hand. You know, and cutting them away, so you'll be cutting them. Now, because these abrasives are quite aggressive in the initial cutting stages, if the clear coat looks this bad, you're not going to be left with a perfectly smooth surface. Now, a lot of abrasives are diminishing, which means it starts out quite big, and as they are worked, they will reduce in size, so you get more of that kind of size of abrasive. So they will finish down to a degree, but generally I do prefer to do a second stage to further refine the surface. Now you might be thinking, well, why can't we just use one compound or one polish? Okay, so let me try to explain this best I can. If you have a piece of concrete, for example, and you have quite a large chisel, and you're hitting the top of that concrete, this section is going to break off pretty harshly because it's a big chisel and you're going to be hitting an area and it's just not quite fine enough. There's no finesse involved. It's just you're getting rid of the worst of the concrete. So what you have to do is, to get to a finer scale, you have to use a smaller chisel to really, you know, hit the finer marks that you've put into that concrete to sort of round it off and make it flatter. Now, with a massive chisel, you're not going to be able to get the finer points off the concrete. It's just going to travelling away and hitting it and really making quite a mess. The same principle applies to clear coat. So that's why we step it down a notch to finer abrasives, because after the cutting stages you'll probably be left with more sort of this form of clear coat. So you've rounded some of the really harsh peaks off, and these troughs aren't as deep because you've cut that away. So you slowly get into a smoother surface, and what we aim to achieve is as smooth as we can, because it will reflect light better, which will create a deep, rich gloss. So you will step the compound down to a finer abrasive, as you can see here, to really just round the peaks off again and effectively cut away until you get pretty much the smooth as you can surface. And that is pretty much it for an explanation of how a compound works when polishing a vehicle. Hopefully that does make sense. It is quite difficult to explain it in simple terms because a lot of people might not even realise that cars are scratched until they actually are shown and this is explained to them. They might just think that's what a car's paintwork is supposed to look like. They might notice the obvious deep scratches, but not the swirl marks and the general sort of the dull faded effect that you generally get on cars that are, you know, pretty badly damaged. Summarise, polishing a car basically means to effectively cut away the clear coat and refine it, which will create a smoother surface for light to reflect off of which will add a deep, rich gloss to the paint. And to do this, we use products called compounds, which are abrasive liquids that allow us to cut away the clear coat. It's as simple as that. And that wraps it up. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully now we have a better understanding of how, how polishing a car works and what we mean when we say we're going to polish the car versus we're going to wax the car. It can be quite confusing because there's a lot of terms that are thrown around and it's not quite clear cut which is which. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any other uploads from us. Follow us on social media and I shall see you in the next video. Cheers.